Welcome to this week's episode of The Happy Psychic, and I am joined by animal communicator Sue London. So, welcome to the show, Sue.
Thanks for having me, Jim. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on. So, first of all, I am very intrigued to understand how you ended up on this journey in the first place.
Okay, so I was actually born with these abilities, and
Okay.
but I didn't understand it. I was an only child, and I just felt when I was young I didn't fit in, and I didn't understand, just people doing things that weren't right or lying, and I could tell people were lying, and I would get really upset about that. Or I'd see someone being mean to someone else. It was like, why is the world like this? And I just didn't fit in. So that my childhood, my parents were abusive and I was an only child. So my savior was my dog Spot. I got her when I was 2, and I had her for 19 years. She was actually going to walk me down the aisle. And then she crossed
Oh,
over though 4 months before, so she was there
oh,
for that.
what a
But she's
shame.
still with me now, but on the other side, right? And so my childhood was basically, turning to my dog, and I would talk to her, she would talk back. And I thought everybody could do this. I really didn't know any different. And then, I would see the other side and I would talk with them. And I can remember when I was 17 going to really being confused, and nobody could help me understand what was happening. I thought I had something mentally wrong with me because I'd see the other side and I'd say, do you see this or do you smell this? And people were saying, well, you must have something wrong, maybe you have, like some kind of a tumor, or whatever, right? And so I remember going to my grandfather had talked about this minister, and I went and saw him, and I said, is there such a thing as angels, because I keep seeing them? And he said, there is absolutely no such thing as angels. And I thought, okay, this is really confusing me now even more. So I had this journey of, a lot of trying to figure stuff out. And all this time I'm going through abuse from my parents, physically and emotionally. I thought I met Mr. Right, and I was with him for 16 years. 14 of those years, he was physically abusive and emotionally abusive. And my dog Spot tried to warn me ahead of time. So heads up, anybody watching this, if your dog gets aggressive with only one person, he or she is trying to tell you something. So be aware of that. And I didn't listen. And so when I was with this man, it was very stressful, and I actually developed Crohn's disease. And just to backtrack before that, I was pregnant with my first child, and I was on bed rest for the last 4 months of the pregnancy. And just before that, let's backtrack a little bit before that. A neighbor had come to me and said, there's a dog that needs a home, and he's only 1 year old, and they're going to put him down if he doesn't have a home, that the owner couldn't keep him anymore. So when I heard that, I thought, okay, I need to take this dog in. My husband at the time just hated animals. So there's another sign. Like, if someone doesn't like animals,
Hmm.
don't get involved. Okay. That tells you something, right? But anyways, I just knew, and that I had to have this dog in my life, and my strong determination, we talked about before, right, Gemma, that strong determination, and that I knew that I had to help this dog, and I brought it home. So what ended up happening, his name was Rocky, a little Shih Tzu. He was just unloved and needing a haircut and bath and all this. Brought him home, and then I became pregnant with my first child. I'm on bed rest. The dog never left my side, and I had the bond just kept getting stronger and stronger. And then the baby's born, and then after 9 months, I'm diagnosed with Crohn's disease. I'm in and out of hospitals, and I had over 18 surgeries in just a short period. And then fast forward a little bit, then the dog was always at my side. And then, when the baby got a little bit older, I would spend time, like up to 3 hours at a time, in the washroom. And I would have to bring the dog in with my little child, like she would maybe be, a year at this point, bring her toys in the washroom, and Rocky would look after her. So it was kind of like, that movie Peter Pan? Nan, the dog.
Mhm.
Well,
Yes.
that's Rocky. That was Rocky. That was he
Oh, that's
kind of
lovely.
like, don't go in the cupboard, he'd entertain her while I was being sick. So that was kind of, what was happening. So again, all these situations kept coming up that were like lessons for me that I would carry forward in the future. And so when I became pregnant with my second child, my weight went down to just 80 pounds. And the doctor said, okay, you're going to have to make a choice who's going to live, you or the baby. Because my weight was at 80 pounds. I couldn't even walk 4 feet to the washroom. I was in the hospital for quite a long time, was hooked up to IV, both ends, not to be graphic, but it was like both ends were going and there was just nothing left of me. But I knew deep down that I was pregnant for a reason. It was important that I stay pregnant. I knew that this baby was going to be born and we were both going to survive it. We were both going to be happy and healthy and have a wonderful life. I knew that just so deep down in me. So the doctor comes in the next day and he says, okay, so what's your choice? Who's going to live? And I said, we both are, and you're fired. And he was shocked. He was absolutely shocked by that. And he says, you can't fire me. I'm a doctor. And I said, I just did. So the next day, a new doctor came in and saw a picture of Rocky on my bed table and said, oh, you love dogs. And I said, yeah, and I haven't seen Rocky for a while. And so he said, well, let's get that dog down here. Now I'm in Canada. And at that time in 1992, animals were not allowed to be in hospitals. They were seen upon still as a pet. And if you wanted to see your pet, you had to get outside on the patio area to see your pet. So the nurse came in the next day and said she was just going to go get a wheelchair. It's going to take her about 15 minutes. And then we'd go down and see Rocky. And I thought, again, here's my strong determination really kicking in. I thought, no, I am not waiting 15 minutes when I haven't seen my dog in so long. And I mean, we're talking like about a month and a half. I had not seen my dog. That's long for me, even hours. So I just focused him in my mind and thought, okay, I'm going to see Rocky. I'm going to see Rocky. I see him licking my face. By the way, I love animals that lick my face, right? So I could feel him licking my face. And I just focused on the door and I just grabbed the IV pole and got to the door. I thought, okay, I did it. So then I focused on him some more and I got out in the hall and I had about 1,000 feet to walk. So it was quite a long haul, right? And so I hung out at the railing and I just took step by step, slowly grabbing the pole. And all I focused on was just this dog licking me and holding him, and we're reunited. That's all I focused on. And as I would focus on him, the more I wasn't feeling that weakness in my body. Or, I didn't feel like I had to, vomit or have diarrhea, like, whatever was going to
Mhm.
happen. So as I saw him in that glass door, as I got closer, I let go of the railing and just this magic filled my body and filled the energy in the space. And I got down to that door and I opened the door and he jumped up in my arms. He was licking my face. And I knew at that
Oh.
moment that I was going to be okay. And thankfully to that dog, he just gave me this strength and courage to find that whatever I needed internally to keep going with this
Mhm.
pregnancy. And so I went home 2 days later and
Mhm.
I delivered a beautiful, healthy baby girl. And I would say she's one of my best friends. And just 2 weeks ago, she had a baby girl. So you
Oh,
talk about an emotional grandma here, right?
wow.
So when that daughter of mine, when she graduated kindergarten, I was the one sitting in the front row crying because I focused on how grateful I was to my dog, right? And then when she graduated grade 6 and then high school, and then when she got married, well, everyone just handed me boxes of Kleenexes because they knew I always would go back to that scene where things could have been so different if I didn't have my dog in my life, you
Yeah.
know? So it was just like, that. And then, so then what had happened after that situation, then I came home and, the baby's born, like the daughter's born. And then 3 years later, I started having some issues with my stomach. And the doctors told me I had a torn muscle. And I thought, well, it was different than what I'd ever had before. So we just moved into a new house. I'd been pulling wallpaper off and gardening. So I thought maybe that's just the normal thing. What happens? I don't know what normal is really, right? And so I went home thinking I have this torn muscle, and an hour later I couldn't breathe, I couldn't move. And then I went back and I sat in the emergency department for 4 hours, collapsed on the floor. They took me in and they said, "Oh my God, your intestine just burst." And they
Mhm.
diagnosed it wrong. And who do you want to say goodbye to? And just as I was saying I wanted to say goodbye to my dog, I had a near-death experience. And when I was in the white light and, got up there and that, I was met by my grandpa Buck, who was, my teacher, my best friend. If anyone could get through to little stubborn Susie, it was my grandpa Buck, right? And so I was met by my grandpa, and I was met with Jesus at his side. And they both said to me that it wasn't my time to be there, that I had to go back because I had millions of people and their pets that I had to help cope, heal, and move forward. And that was my destiny, and I hadn't fulfilled it yet. So I came back, and then that's when I learned that my husband of 16 years had a girlfriend for 14 years, had moved her in. And so it was really a real eye opener. Like, when you go through a near death experience, really, you get your priorities straight. And I wasn't
Yeah.
going to have this anymore. So showed him the door, spent, 5 years just really working on myself, clearing, really, understanding about what I could do, my abilities, and what it was all about. Because still at this point, at age 34, I really still had nobody that was helping me understand what was happening to me, because I didn't understand. And my hands would heat up, as a child, and I had like the healing energy come through me, and my father would call me a freak. And so I really didn't have confidence. So you can kind of get the big picture, right? So I spent the 5 years really working on myself. And then I learned about Reiki, I understand
Yeah.
Reiki, hands-on healing or sending
Yeah.
at a distance. So, I'm now a teacher of Reiki, and I teach people how to do Reiki on their pets, or I'm doing hands-on healing on animals, that kind of thing, and giving the messages. And so I showed my ex the door, spent 5 years working on myself. And then I had to go on a TV show. Now, up until this point, believe it or not, I was so shy. I couldn't even raise my hand at school and say here for attendance. I was just that center of attention, just was so stressful for me. And so all these people, that were saying, you need to go to Toastmasters International. Do you know, have you heard of them, Toastmasters?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay, so they're a global group. And if you have a fear of speaking in public, they're a group where you can go, Toastmasters, and they help you to get over your fear of speaking in public. They help you write your speeches and just, prepare for whatever meetings, that kind of thing. So I ended up running into this lady that I had helped her husband, and I ran into her seven times in one day. So like there's no sign there.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So of course, and I'm at the place where like she says, "Oh, this is crazy. We keep meeting each other." And I said, "I know you. What do you need? You must need something. It's all about everyone else, right? Not about me, what I need, right?" And so I kept running into her. So finally, the last time I saw her, I said, "Okay, this is really crazy." She goes, "It's got to be you. What do you need?" And I said, "Well, I need this phone number to go to Toastmasters, and I have to get over my fear of speaking in public, and I'm not looking forward to doing it." And I was really digging my heels in, and like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to get over. I don't want to speak in public. And so I that just ended that conversation with her. Came home, the phone was ringing as I was opening the door, and it was this lady. And she said, "I've got the phone number for you to call. Then you can start going and get help." And I phoned the number, and I left a message, and then the man called me back and said, "Yeah, we can help you, and tell me about yourself and why you want to do this." And I said, "Well, I have to go on a TV show in like 4 months." And he said, "Well, I'll help you get ready for it." And he said, "Come out." And the first meeting was September 11th, 2001. I don't know if you know that date. That was the day when,
No.
9/11 hit in
Yeah.
America, and that. And so it was really, a memorable day in many ways for so many people, right? And so anyways, I went and I met this man. Now, here's where the part will really give you chills. So I walked in, and the man's name that, I connected with is his name is Ross. My grandfather, who stopped me in the tunnel, my favorite grandfather, his name is Ross. Okay. So I'm working with Ross on at the Toastmasters, and he's helping me prepare to, go through all this stuff and then write speeches and that. And he asked me out on a date through email in October. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to date. I'm going to ignore this. I don't want to get involved with guys again. And, this is just, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm just going to ignore, pretend it didn't happen or whatever. And so, because I thought you ask someone out in person, you don't just go through an email, Anyways, I started getting all these phone calls from people like, you got an email, like, what if he's Mr. Right? What if he's Mr. Right? So I thought, okay, well, what if he is Mr. Right? So we went out on this date, and ironically, it was a dinner theater, and the show that was playing was about a man having an affair on his wife. And he's
Mhm.
like, "Oh my God, I didn't even realize what the show was about. I'm sorry, and I'm laughing. And I thought that happened to show me that I have passed and healed that.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting there, and my abilities, like, I feel them when they're around, and, I can get messages, or I can feel it in me physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and all this. Right. And so we're sitting at the table, and it was a table for four, but there's only the two of us there. And here's my grandfather sitting with us. And he's like, yeah, giving me the thumbs up. This is the one. This is the one. And there's this lady sitting there. So, Ross and I are talking. And I said, it's really, really crazy because my favorite grandfather's name is Ross. And your name is Ross. He goes, oh, I can make it crazier. He said, my favorite grandmother's name is Susie. And
Oh.
right. And so, okay. And then it gets better. So then we were talking. He goes, how did you get my phone number? And so I said, well, this lady, I helped this couple, and I saw her 7 times. I told him what happened. He says, well, here's the crazy thing. He says, my phone number was never listed anywhere.
Oh,
And
wow.
I thought, okay, this is really meant to be.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we've been together for 21 years.
I know, I was hoping that you were going to say that. I'm like, is she still with Ross? Is she still with Ross? Yeah, she's still with
Yeah.
Ross.
So yeah, we are together, and
Mhm.
he's my best friend. And when I was doing my Reiki training, God bless this guy, he let me practice on him and all that. So he's a Reiki healer now too.
Yeah,
And so he's like, when you're with the right one, it's just everything is right. And I'm proud of him, he's proud of me. We stop and we help people, we help pets, and that's what our life is like now. And it's just incredible, right?
yeah,
And so somebody had come to me and said that they wanted to do past life regression on me. And I thought, okay, like and again, here comes the stubbornness, right? I can't be
mhm.
hypnotized. And I was hypnotized, and I went back to these different lifetimes. And what happened, I've been married to the same man every lifetime. And
Oh,
the
wow.
parents that were abusive to me, that I was born to, they weren't actually my parents. They were like a life lesson for me to learn
Uh-huh.
how important it is to share with people that you love your child, you hug them, you tell
Yeah,
people you're grateful for them, you appreciate them, right? And so my parents in every other lifetime were actually Ross's parents in this lifetime.
oh, that's
Right. So see
amazing.
how, like, sometimes people get like in situations where, you don't understand how come, like, that there's no connection here. Well, they're a
Yeah,
life lesson for you, right? And
yeah,
yeah, so here I am today, and I'm helping lots of people exactly what my destiny is.
yeah.
I'm teaching people how to do pet healings. And I teach Reiki courses, pet Reiki courses. In fact,
Uh-huh.
I've got one in a couple hours. That's why you see me dressed like I am. You know, and yeah, and I do that, and I go on TV shows, and I stand on stage and speak to thousands. And so it's like I got past all my stuff.
Yeah,
And I just knowing that what my destiny was, and that this love for animals, I knew that get rid of my stuff and just work on yourself and get to the point where, you're doing what you're supposed to. And like Ross will introduce me not as his wife, but as his adventure, because he says he never knows what we're doing next. And it's true.
Uh-huh.
Like we'll get up in the morning and hear, we need to go here. And we'll go, and there's someone there who maybe just lost a pet, and I need to give them a message from their pet, or help them to cope with that. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's truly an
Oh, that's beautiful. That's really, really lovely. Really, really beautiful.
yeah,
So I am super curious to understand how it works because I'm a psychic medium and I connect with people who have crossed over. But
yeah.
I can connect with animals that have crossed over, although I don't do it very often. It's not my focus. But I don't connect with animals who are on the living plane, which I know you do. That's part of what you do, is getting
Yeah.
messages from the animals and understanding their thoughts and feelings at the time. Are you connecting directly with that animal? Or are you connecting via like a guide?
No, I'm connecting right with the animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I connect with animals that are here alive,
Hmm.
and I connect with animals on the other side. I
Yeah.
connect, like I can put my hands on an animal. So can I give you an example
Yes, please
okay,
do. Yeah.
okay. So here's one example that like our pets are our teachers, and they want to help us, right? So a lot of animals will search me out. And I had this one animal come. I was at a farmer's market doing healing this one day. And so this couple, the girl felt that they needed to come see me. The husband was in a terrible state. He'd been going through quite a lot. The dog kept pulling to go where this market was. And this is at a beach, kind of like this town where I was at. And so the dog like pulled on the leash. They didn't even know where they were going. The dog directed them there. So what ended up happening, I put my hands on the dog, and I thought, this dog does not need healing. The dog is fine. Then the dog started talking to me and telling me messages for the husband and who was with him, and that for him to know that he was going to get through that challenge, what he was faced. And this is what you need to do. And that man was crying his heart out to know that this is who was with him, supporting him. And so
Yeah.
that dog was kind of the catalyst. So between the dog and I, we were kind of the catalyst conduits to get this man back on track, kind of thing, right? So that's what
Hmm.
happened with that dog. I've had just Saturday, I was at another event, and a lady, and it was an event for dogs that were rescued from St. Lucia. And so this lady wanted to know if I could, help her, give her horse a healing. And but she couldn't bring the horses. She wanted if I could come to her barn and that. And I said, well, if you can't bring your pet to me at these events, I can do the distant healing and get the messages. Show me a picture and I'll connect and see what's going on. So what happened? She showed me the picture of the horse Gus, and Gus had had a traumatic past, and he told me what the past was. As I was looking at him, I was feeling in my body what had happened, and I was doing this kind of, and he had worked for this Mennonite family, and they really overworked him. And he actually had like a bump on between his shoulder blades that they from
Hmm.
this plow. And so she said, well, he was kind of sad. And then he told me, well, he had a female friend, female horse. They worked together, and he was really missing her. So he kind of told me what was going on with her, like with him, and what was happening. And he'd say, I'm sore here. And so I was kind of doing this as I'm talking to her, and I'm looking over here because I see her husband's there as well, and I'm giving him his messages to her, as well as what the horse is saying. And then her dog appears, and then I kind of started rubbing my chest, and she goes, oh my gosh, you're picking up my dog now. My dog's having heart problems. And then
Hmm.
then I saw three other dogs on the other side at her feet. So this is kind of traditionally what happens with me. And then yesterday I was at a funeral for a friend, and she was giving me messages for her son. And this was going on I've been up all night. I've only had like an hour's sleep all night last night between it all. So that will happen. And then on another hand, I had a dog come to me July 23rd to an event, and the owner said that the dog was blind. And the dog said to me, I'm not going to be blind for long. I'm not going to be blind for long. Now, I didn't want to tell her that because I don't want to get someone's hopes up. And
Yeah.
I wanted her to know it's not me doing the healing. I'm just like the conduit. Like, it comes from a higher source. A lot of times Jesus is at my side. People see me glowing. They'll see a halo over my head. They take pictures. They see orbs all around me. And so this dog, when she said, you're going to help me. So what happened for the next 5 weeks? Like, I was at different locations, and the owner would bring the dog. I would do 10-minute healing on the dog. And then I would give whatever message the dog had. And the dog kept telling me, I'm going to see, I'm going to see. 5 weeks later, after that first visit from seeing me, the dog started to see, and the
Oh,
dog,
wow.
the dog can now see. So, I'm really grateful that I came back and listened and took the steps that I was guided to take to be in the right place to help like many animals like this. And so, when I was told it was millions of animals, it's exactly what's happening. So
That's
does that answer
amazing.
your question?
Yes, it does answer my question. Because I was curious to know whether people come out of curiosity to understand what their pets are thinking and feeling, or does it tend to be out of necessity, whenever
Yeah.
there's an issue? Obviously, the dog sought you out
So
to
yeah,
get
so
his
what
owner created.
happens? So what can happen is, like, people see, I also help animals cross over when it's time. So an owner will contact me and say, that I know you've had the near-death experience. Can you help me understand what's going to happen to, Charlie? And so I will, again, if it's meant to be, it will work into my schedule. And
Yeah.
so I will, earmark the time, and I will send healing to the owner, because we all know it's tough when you lose your pet. And so I want to give them that strength to, be able to cope, as well as I want to bring peace to the pet and help the owner let go so that the pet can cross easier and with more ease, let's say, right? So here's another example. Okay. So I was being interviewed. A reporter had come to my house to interview me for a newspaper. That an hour later, I had found out that morning that this little dog was going to be, her little life was ending. And she had come to me 4 weeks earlier with a little hole in her tummy that you could fit your thumb in the hole. And she's a little Yorkie. And so the owner brought her, and the woman said that the vet wanted to put her down then. And she said, can you tell me, is she ready to cross now? She goes, I know she has a hole, but is she ready? And the dog told me, no, that it wasn't her time yet. It wasn't her time. So I said, exactly, no, she's not ready to cross. That dog lived for another 4 more weeks. And so then, the day came, and the owner contacted me and said, okay, I feel she's ready. I asked, and the dog said, yes, it is my time to go. So, I'm doing Reiki. I'm talking to the dog. I'm sending healing to the owner, all while I'm being interviewed for this newspaper article. And so then this is happening. And then the man's interviewing me. And then all of a sudden I sit back and I start rubbing my belly. I thought, what am I doing? Like, this is crazy. And what happened, I started picking up his cat that was on the other side with him. And he said,
Uh-huh.
oh my gosh, he says, you're picking up, whatever the cat's name was, you're picking up my cat. So that was pretty crazy experience with feeling, helping an owner, getting messages from this dog. This man's cat came through, and then the man's uncle came through, because my hands were doing this. Because what happens with me is, a lot of times it will, to prove that it's who it is, I do things that their loved one did, whether it's an animal or a person. And I
Mhm.
don't even know I'm doing this. Like, sometimes I'll, be doing this, and they'll say, oh, my mom used to do that all the time. But anyways, so what happened with going back with the dog, I did end up getting through that interview. It was pretty incredible. I did. But anyways, what happened, as I was, the time was coming, I was doing Reiki on the dog, and I was telling the owner exactly what was happening. So I would say, like, this is who's coming from the other side to take, your little one over. This is who's here now. And, she'd say, well, is she feeling pain? Am I, like, there's a lot, people feel guilty. That's the big thing. People feel guilty when they're saying goodbye to their pet. And you don't have to feel guilty. She's ready. And then I told her who was there. I gave the message, how the owner was going to know that, how the pet, was going to bring a message to them. Like, hey, we're okay, mommy. And so that was huge for that woman. It was very comforting for her. And then for 2 days, that dog kept coming through me, and I would text the message to the owner and tell her that this is, what, your little one is saying. So that was really very healing for that lady. People have brought their pets with this physical problems, and the physical problems were not actually ones that needed surgery, but they were emotional, or and doing healing, energy healing is what helped that. I had a dog come that couldn't walk. And the owner said, like, literally the back end had stopped working. And basically what that was all about was the owner was not moving forward in her life. So I took her through a process to help her to, let go and realize everything was happening at the right time, place, and, reason. So she needed to look at that situation different. And then, got her kind of worked out so that she would not be in that energy. And then I did healing on the dog. And within an hour, the dog was running up and down the stairs and chasing his ball. So that's another example of, why people come to me. And, there's people that grieve their pet. I had one story where a lady came to me from Cayman Islands in the Caribbean, and she had said, I was doing it through Zoom, and oh my gosh, the night before I felt a snake at my feet. Now, I'm not a snake lover. I'm sorry to all you, reptile fans, of snakes, but I just don't like snakes. So here's a snake at my feet. And I thought, oh my gosh, okay, who's this for? Who's coming up that I'm going to have who's a snake for? Anyways, what had happened, the woman in the Caribbean, there was a hurricane, and her daughter had opened the door, and the dog got out because it was scared and got out, and it ran into the rainforest. And what happened, and it was a little Yorkie, little small dog. And when it ran into the forest, this snake, protecting himself, bit the dog, and it was a poisonous snake, and killed the dog. And the snake had come to me to ask the owner for forgiveness, because the snake knew that what his actions had actually destroyed her marriage, because she was blaming her husband. It wouldn't have happened if they didn't move there. Her relationship with her daughter actually fell apart as well, because her daughter was the one who opened the door, not being, realizing you don't let a dog out in a hurricane, and so I said to her, I have a snake here, please, he wants you to forgive him. Can you do that? And so she had a lot of tears and cried. And she says, yes, I can forgive the snake. And as soon as she said that, the snake left me. And so I was really grateful for her forgiving that snake.
Was the snake on the earth plane at that time, or had the snake crossed over?
The snake had crossed over too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And it's phenomenal as well, like even how our own mindset and everything can impact on our animals. Like you mentioned about the dog who couldn't move, his back leg sort of stopped working, and it was because of its owner. So that's pretty incredible, because I hadn't actually realized that there was that connection.
Yeah. So like I actually do talk. I have a talk coming up on October 2nd. I'm kind of looking at my calendar, October 2nd. And in Canada, we have these pet stores called Pet Value. And so they're a chain, and I'm going to be in the first location on October 2nd. And I'm actually teaching people how where you are mentally, physically, emotionally, your pet absorbs that, because that's what our pets do. Pet therapies, they absorb our energy, right? So I'm teaching people how to clear their energy, get in the Epsom salts baths, walk by water, carry a tourmaline stone in your pocket, like for protection, protect your energy, ground yourself, don't have the angry negative news and shows on. I play in our house. I do a meditation at night and I do a meditation in the morning. And there's a really good app called Insight Timer. Have you heard about that? Do you know that?
No.
So anyone who's watching this is really great. And I would get messages 24/7, and I was lucky if I get half an hour sleep at night, and it was not good for me. And so I was told about this Insight Timer app. And I'm proud to say I sleep 8 hours a day now. Or 8 hours a night. I'm so excited about this. But why I'm telling you that is because I'm playing this and it's got the 432 hertz healing vibration, and it helps myself and my husband and our dogs clear any negative energy. And so our dogs and myself and my husband are healthier than we've ever been because we're playing this meditation at night while we sleep. And so that app has that, like, all these different meditations. And then I also play one in the morning. And I had it on before we started doing our interview. And I've got two dogs at my feet right now snoring away, and you wouldn't even know they're there, So it's really important to know that whatever you're feeling, your pet is going to absorb. And
Yeah.
that's, I teach people how to clear the energy. Do you want me to tell you how for people to do that?
Yeah, that would be really good. Yes, definitely.
I'll
Just
tell you the
people.
quick version. So pretend I'm a dog, okay, or a cat or a horse or whatever animal you have. You just start on the top of the head of the animal and you just brush down their head, their neck, down their spine, down their tail, and then you flick it away. So you're flicking it into the earth, right? But make sure you don't flick it on yourself, another person, or another animal. And then you go down the legs, right? So this is my front leg, flick it in the ground, go down each leg, front and back, go down the tail. I feel like there's a lot of animals that need down the chest. So go down like the front and down the chest, flick it. So you're brushing off the energy off the animal. And it takes like 2 minutes, 3 minutes to do. And you don't have to be a healer. Anyone can do that. You can either put your hand just over, or you can like brush it off. You can do it either way. And then you just want to make sure, like, after you're done, take the energy, push it away, flick it in the ground, wash your hands after to get rid of that energy, right?
Yeah.
And people who are not healers, like they have said, that their dogs don't have stomach aches anymore, or they're eating again, or, their cats were calmer, or, the horses were, more content, or, whatever was happening with them. All right. And so I do that process on my own dogs twice a day. And my one dog is 16 and a half, and he thinks he's a puppy. Like, he's still got the energy of a puppy, right?
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So do you teach people how to do this? I know that you teach Reiki, but do you teach people how to communicate with their animals and develop that intuitive aspect of themselves?
So I don't see, when I'm working with somebody, like, I always say, I teach them the Reiki, the pet Reiki, and they always open up, because when I'm teaching pet Reiki, like, today I'm teaching a pet Reiki class, and the one lady does not have a pet anymore. Her pet's on the other side, but she wanted to learn from me. So when I'm teaching, day one is all about like connecting, how to connect, and how to, do the self-care with this energy. Now it's pretty intense. And, as healers, like, I'm sure yourself, you're feeling quite a lot more than you used to, right? That,
Yeah.
we have to really do a lot of self-care work. So I teach people to prepare them so that they know what you need to do, because if I didn't do what, like the protection and the grounding and the Epsom salts bath, and like if I don't get by that water, like I feel like my body just starts shaking. So I don't want to see other people go through that, or what I went through for 30 plus years with having no one to help me. So in this training that I do, I spend the first day just talking about all this, and then the second day it's all about working on your pet, and you have your pets are part of the class. But the people who don't have a pet, when they're part of this, they'll take that time and they'll be working on themselves. And so that's why I have, like, I do it through Zoom because I've got like the students around the world, but I can also see what they're doing. And then everyone has their pets, because you don't want to have a room of 10 dogs that might not want that, or a cat or whatever, right? That might be a little crazy, right? So yeah.
I'm sure it gets quite interesting when the animals see themselves like on the screen though as well, or see like other pets on the screen. But yeah, I can imagine that
it's really interesting watching, because animals are very they're very intuitive, they're very sensitive, they're aware. And I had one lady do her Reiki training with me, and she said, before the training, she had 2 dogs and a cat, and she said, my cat doesn't like me. I said, your cat will love you after your Reiki training. It's your energy that's why she's not coming near you. So she's, day 1 did the training, and about an hour into the train, her cat, and I always say, have your pets part of this. This is about them as well, right? Not just keep them in a cage or whatever, bring them in the room, right? And so she says, this is crazy. She says, my cat's coming all over me and licking me. And to this day, her cat won't leave her alone. But but doing her training, that energy training, took her vibration up, helped her clear stuff, and the cat loves the healing. Now she's gone on to do level 2 training Reiki. So she's doing Reiki on the planet. She's doing Reiki on pets. She's doing Reiki on her students. She has a yoga studio, so she does Reiki on her students, and all the animals are sniffing her. For me, my family call me a dog stalker, which I am not, for the record. Okay, I'm not. But the animals just, they're drawn to me like a magnet, because they feel my energy, right?
Yeah, this is just your calling. It was just your purpose in life, isn't it? So,
yeah,
and I don't think people realize how intuitive animals are actually.
Oh, they are. They're very smart.
Take that for granted. So I actually had an amazing story myself, and I had connected to one of my guides, and I was just, I think it was the morning I was going in for an operation, and I had been stroking my cat. I'd fed him, and he was sitting eating his food. And I seen my guide just bend down to stroke my cat on the head. And as he stroked him, my cat turned around as if to say, who was that?
Look who's with you. Yeah.
And he was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I see the same thing actually with a baby as well, because I know that our intuitive abilities is something that we tend to grow out of. But I was in the grocery store one day, and as I was leaving to go to the car, there was a woman walking along with a little baby, maybe 4 or 5 months old, maybe not even as much as that. And my guide had bent down to the pram and shook a rattle, and the baby just looked straight away. I was like, oh, how are you?
Yeah. Well, I actually wrote a book. You can see it on my website, youranimalcommunicator.com, and exactly what you're saying. I wrote a book called Signs from Your Beloved Pet, and all of what you're saying is in this book, that people can become aware of how your pets and babies actually connect, and like they'll see them, and what you can expect. I actually had a puddle on my floor in this space in our basement. And I thought, what, our dogs don't pee on the floor. Like, what is this about? And I cleaned it up, and it was just water, and it wasn't like dog pee or anything. And so, doing my research, because I'd never come across this before, but the other side can leave puddles. Did you know that? I didn't know this either. And so there was actually a puddle, and ironically, I had asked where I was supposed to have my office space set up, because with all our lights and backdrops and all this for, Zoom, I didn't have, my office wasn't big enough for that. And I had asked the other side to guide me where it was supposed to be. And there was this puddle, and every day I wasn't paying attention. The puddle would get bigger, and we're looking at the ceiling, no watermarks, and they can also leave a puddle. And that's exactly where my office space is.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really
So
good.
just
Yeah.
people just have to become aware, right? That, once you
Yeah.
have the knowledge. So yeah, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what I know. That's kind of my destiny. I'm supposed to be doing is educating and
Amazing.
healing and
Yeah.
sharing the messages,
Yeah.
right?
So you
Yeah.
do Reiki, so you perform Reiki on pets. People can book you for that as a service, or you also teach it, and they
Mhm.
can book in with you for that. And then you do where you connect with the animal and bring the messages through for the person, and you do that both remotely and in person.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 So how can people reach out to you? Where can they find you?
So if you go to my website, Your Animal Communicator, sorry, is that my website? Youranimalcommunicator.com. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
I just had a
That's
blank
okay.
right there. Oh my gosh.
It's like the day that I forgot my name. I was meeting like one of the members of the royal family, and I was only a young girl, but he said, "Yes, so what's your name?" And he was like, and I get my cousin's name. I just completely forgotten.
Yeah, I know. But my head is already in the zone for teaching and what I have to tell the students about this animal. Welcome to my world, right?
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're on that,
Yeah.
and you're also on Instagram and the
I'm on
socials there.
Instagram, and my Facebook is Ask Sue London. It's
Hmm.
my fan page, or whatever you call it, your business page or whatever.
Yeah,
And yeah, you can, like, I post regularly on both those places, and
yeah.
I'm proud to say I've learned how to do the stories, so I'll post the stories on,
Oh, yay! On
right.
Instagram and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fab.
yeah. I'm excited to say I've added music. I learned how to do that, and I did that without my kids, so they were very impressed.
Oh, that's
It's
brilliant.
funny, as us being healers, like, we're great at doing all that stuff, but technology and administration work, that's a different story for us
Oh,
altogether,
don't even
right?
talk to me about admin. That,
Yeah,
no, it's not my cup of tea.
yeah, exactly. I knew exactly, like,
Yeah, definitely not my strong point.
yeah, yeah. Well, we're too busy what we have to do, right?
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. Oh,
yeah.
well, honestly, so it has been absolutely wonderful having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you
Um,
so much. It's been fun. It's been fun.
yes, and I really, I expect that you will have inspired lots of people to think about the connections they have with their pets, and
Yeah.
hopefully, there'll be some people reaching out to you, curious to know a little bit more about healing, or maybe wanting some messages brought through so they can connect with their pet better.
Yeah, yeah, that would be
Yeah.
great. And like all these sessions I do, like, I do them at distance, or like I'm in the pet stores, or
Yeah,
different locations. But yeah, I do have clients all around the world.
yeah,
So,
that's
you know,
amazing.
I'm
That's
here when you need me.
excellent. Oh, well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, you have a great day. Okay.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.